Oh, good day, Jordan. There's a 2-for-1 carton of beers, a BWS special.
Oh, hell yeah. Welcome back to the channel, guys. This is going to be a brand new series I'm starting on the channel that takes a closer look into the effects that the influences have on Australian culture. In today's video, we're going to be examining the YouTube channel Superwog. The goal is to identify the aspects of their content and break it down for you guys, the audience.
Are you the donkey? Okay, Dad, oh my god!
The Australian channel known as Superwog, or fun fact, Superwog 1, if you were a more observant viewer, is run by the Australian duo Nathan and Theodore Sadin. Now, these two Australian brothers have been creating the Superwog empire for the past 15 or so years. And what they have now created is a channel that has accumulated almost 3 million subscribers, I believe. They also have 2 seasons of a show on ABC and a mini-series. Now, that's impressive, if I do say so myself. Theo in the show plays himself and goes by the name Superwog, funny enough. Now, Theo plays 2 characters. He plays himself and he also plays the part of his mother. Now, it's quite interesting that he plays 2 characters at once. But Nathan does the same thing. He plays the character of Johnny on one hand, and on the other hand, he plays Theo's dad. Now, together, they somehow make 4 characters work. Do they look silly doing it? Yes. Is it funny? Absolutely. The show depicts the duo being quite comfortable around vulgar language, often using it in, I guess, a sense of colloquial language, as it is quite common in Australia. The duo often depicts themselves as both having a getting stuff done ourselves attitude towards problems they face if they don't end up hurting themselves first. Now, Theo often depicts having a value towards doing the right thing, just in a bizarre way. This is evident from episode 4 of season 2 of the show, where Theo takes it upon himself to be nice to Johnny's elderly neighbour and starts helping him around. Johnny is typically the skeptic in these scenarios and is the same here. He doesn't have the same values towards hospitality as Theo and is constantly attempting to stop Theo from getting involved, which was the right decision in the end, as she does try and poison Theo and Johnny through a Swedish fish dish. Now, this also means Johnny doesn't believe much in going out of his way to help others, while Theo often does believe in doing the right thing. Again, just goes about it quite strangely. The show uses chronology that matches the events in real life, such as the acknowledgement of the COVID-19 virus, and even becomes a core plot point in the mini-series episode 6 titled The Virus. The series also shows the progression of the characters growing up. The first season of the show has Theo and Johnny still in high school, whereas the second season depicts them going about their lives after school and becoming adults. Now, Theo and Johnny still live at home, but their adventures are more specific to them, as opposed to season 1 having the boys' shenanigans being intertwined with that of Theo's parents. And finally, the mini-series showcases them after moving out, and they live together now with just the 2 of them. The episodes follow a typical story structure with exposition, rising action, climax, failing action, and either a resolution or catastrophe. Johnny and Theo often provide a great contrast to what the average viewer would do in the same scenario as characters. Even the mum and dad do this with the episode 6 of season 1, showing the dad straight up attempting to eat another survivor in a zombie apocalypse dream sequence. He somehow manages to go through years worth of canned corn and then sets his eyes on a fellow survivor who is of larger size. Given the name of the show, it is no surprise that the show stars Wogs, and with the real-life brothers being of Wog descent, they depict the embodiment of Wogs in Australia very well, without leaning on racial jokes and more on characteristics of being a Wog into the punchlines. The representation is achieved through the use of hilariously thick accents, the use of Australian slang, hilarious body language through things as simple as the way the characters walk. This is evident in the scene within the first episode, outside of pilot, of course, being Breaking Dad, where Theo is in foster care and makes a joke with the play on the words of the common phrase of "watch your mouth," where he comically attempts to view his own mouth by flailing around like a fish.
What's my mouth? How do I do that? Like this? Like that?
Now, the impacts these two might have on the audience can vary from the viewer, but the elements that could be seen as positive or negative can be generally agreed upon. This doesn't mean it makes the scene bad, but that a particular aspect can be considered more mature and therefore not appropriate for all audiences. Now, the positives of the show are things such as the use of Australian slang connecting to the Australian audience, the implementation of various methods of comedy, example physical, verbal, expressive and implied humour. And there's also a diverse cast with other actors aside from Theo and Nathan being from all ranges of life. They are also not afraid to say the things we all think but won't say. Now, that shows that you don't always come out on top of a conflict or tough situation, providing a sense of relatability. Example, episode 2 of season 1 ends after Theo and his dad fight over a suitcase full of jewels, which they lose in the conflict, making their efforts worthless. They later see on the TV that a family is shown earlier that the dad encounters as having found the jewels and bringing up the point of sharing. Points of comedy that heavily indulge in Australian culture make it feel more familiar to the Australian audience as well. Now for the negatives. The show uses heavy language which can be too much for some viewers, and the episodes can sometimes negatively depict the Australian community as stupid or bizarre for the sake of comedy. Example, the mini-series final episode, The Vandalism. Violence is often shown to be used as a first option, which can be seen as immature, but it is for the sake of comedy, I guess. And the overall behaviours of the pair are quite uncouth and depict a negative image on the behaviours of Australian citizens. And lastly, there is also a fair amount of sexual themes throughout the various scenes, but I mean, what do you expect? The show has depicted themes that can often be related to by the viewers, though some are more extreme than others. A prime example of this is the constant domestic struggles of Theo's dad being abusive to Theo, with this being shown in just the pilot episode, which starts the whole plot off with Theo trying to get a job to support himself enough to get away from his dad.
These, of course, can be quite relatable to a lot of younger audience members. The series and provide them with an outlet to laugh. Hey, see, I am normal, I laugh, because it is meant to be more humorous than evil. Boy, did you call me evil? Hey!
Alright, get out of here, Dad. Let me do the rest of this shit, Gronk. This guy, I'm telling you. Now, this, of course... Fuck. Oh, I'm reading his line. Shit. Well, there are also instances where there are quite unrealistic scenes that are used to elevate the tension of the scene by making an absurd feat being performed by one of the characters. There's a great example of this in the previously mentioned Family Jewels episode, where the dad is shown walking on the side of the highway like a bloody grump. And what ends up happening is he gets left stranded there like the dog he is, the mutt. So Theo, myself, ends up walking past, and I decided to throw a metal pole at his head. And what ended up happening was it just bounced off him. He's like the Terminator. He can't be stopped. Bro, I've seen him go through doors. He's something else. Now, this is quite remarkable for the man, because he's, as dumb as a donkey. And again, like the Terminator, he goes up to some gronks, tries rolling them for their possessions, and it's a very Terminators-esque scenario where he asks for their boots, their clothes, their bike, their numbers of their mothers, same shit. And he ends up doing another crazy feat of strength, and he just bends a bar when they try attacking him like some sort of bloody monster. Well, shit, he's coming back.
These people, too. Now, we can take a quote from the first episode where Theo is being interviewed by Child Protective Services after being seen as quite roughed up after coming to school. His teacher and Child Protective Services ask about what happens at home with his dad, and he responds with, "He's an animal. He'll walk through anything. He's basically a human bobcat." Though the Bobcat Company is an Australian, the use of bobcats in Australia is as well known as the bloody Bible. Many children grow up with these toys, and even adults look in awe at just the sight of one of these Australian icons. So it's a great idea to incorporate such an Australian idol in this line. Another question is asked by the Child Protective Services about how long has the abuse gone on for, which Theo replies with, "Months upon months. I'm just lucky he didn't use the cricket bat on me this time." Which is quite distraught and disturbing. Now, this line once again brings up something that didn't originate in Australia, however has been adopted here and held as an Australian icon. Of course, being cricket, which is huge in Australia as a sport. Although both these quotes are in relation to, simply put, child abuse, it does showcase the heavy use of Australian culture staples, and both within the same scene.
But I sure as hell know it's in my right as an Aussie to expect a fucking thank you, Wayne. I'm gonna have to agree with him, Charlene. Give the man his license.
Now this scene shows the importance of good manners in the Australian culture, as the cranky driving instructor tries to deny Theo because he honked his horn illegally at someone who Theo let merge into his lane. However, this other driver didn't perform an Australian gesture of gratitude, often used on the road. This is of course being the thank you wave. Now, this is held at quite a high standard in Australia and the Australian culture, and this is evident by the other people in the background agreeing that Theo deserves his licence and he's passed every other criteria. These people become outraged and chant to get Theo his licence. Now, so far, we've covered the overall plot of the show and the background information about it, as well as analysing the cultural assumptions, attitudes, values and beliefs depicted in the show. The show overall has a well-balanced mix when it comes to casting, jokes, location, settings, and story. This creates a wonderful product that we call Superwog. We get a great representation of what an extreme household looks like, with Theo and his parents, and what having a mate looks like in Australia. This, at the end of the day, gives something that 99% of people can relate to with having a family and friends, just hopefully not as extreme. Now, after watching Superwog for all these years, I've come to find that it is one of the funniest and most creative pieces of Australian media to ever grace our land by sea nation. I feel I've covered this topic and its specific media to the best of my abilities with the time available to me. I hope you have learned something from this, and I implore you to learn and think more about the elements that make up the media you consume the next time you decide to sit down and binge something. Don't forget to subscribe, like the video and turn on notification bells. And as always,
Thank you all for watching, you gronks, and I'll see you later. Peace.